Today we are recording a video on me ranking my favourite rom-coms and romance novels. I don't know how to really full screen my tier list, so you're gonna have to deal with the terrible quality. I also have a new mic that's really sensitive, so I'm gonna try and not be too close to it. And it picks up all the background noise in all the world, so you know. So let's get started. I thought that I'd do a film and then a book and alternate until I run out of books, because I think I've got more films than books. So starting with a film. Right, okay. Let's start with a classic, okay? Love Actually. I kind of just gave away how I feel about it. Oh well. Love Actually. It's a bit controversial. Not everyone loves this film. But I do, and I think it's a classic. So it's going an absolutely classic, or an absolute classic. I didn't even explain the tiers. Absolute classic is the best. Banger is like a good movie or book. Good to melt with is like, it's good to like sit and melt your brain when reality's too much, but other than that, maybe, you know, probably not the best thing. I don't think so is... I don't think so. And then disaster is just like, well, it's a disaster. Next. So book. Okay, we've got Beach Read by Emily Henry. I wouldn't say this is an absolute classic, but I did enjoy reading it. So it's either a banger or good to melt with. I like the premise of the story, like two writers trying to struggle to write books that brings them together. I'll put it in good to melt with, but then we can change it later if, you know, people in the comments are screaming. Because it wasn't like a 5-star book for me. Okay, next film. Okay, we have Eat, Pray, Love. Eat, Pray, Love, the film, I actually do enjoy it. I wouldn't say it's like an absolute classic, but would I watch it? Like 100% for sure. So I'm gonna say it's a banger. And then we have Eat, Pray, Love, the book. I never read the book, but I felt like the book community would not appreciate it if I didn't include the book version. So, because it's the book version, I'm going to put it in classic, even though I haven't read it. What are you going to do about it? Absolute classic. Okay. Film. Okay. Notting Hill. Notting Hill is an absolute classic. Let's just put it out there. And the director of this movie recently just passed away, so thank you for bringing us this film. But Notting Hill is an absolute classic. Anything like Julia Roberts or Hugh Grant in just really tickles my pickle. Also Colin Firth, he's great. So Colin Firth, Hugh Grant, Jude Law, and Julia Roberts. I'll pretty much watch anything that they're in, so yeah. A book. Let's see. Okay. We've got Ovid, like the 2,000-year-old dead Roman, on this list, which might seem like a bit weird. But Ovid wrote a collection of books, I guess, called The Art of Love, which has 3 books, and in the edition that's on here, there's also like other stuff added. It's a vintage edition. But The Art of Love is written in verse, so it's like a poem about how he feels about love and his advice, and some of it is quite interesting if you're a classicist to be like, oh, people felt that way 2,000 years ago, but some of it is also like, oh, that's absolutely terrible and heinous. like the casual nature of violence towards women. Not great. And I don't think an excuse is that it was 2,000 years ago, but it is an actual classic because it's from the classics era, but that doesn't make it an absolute classic, you know. So I enjoyed that I read it, and some of it was interesting, but like I could take none of the messages from the book and apply it in my real life, because it was a lot to do with like, as someone who's not a man, I did feel like the book that was written for the women was written for women on how they can appease the male gaze. So I'm gonna put it in. I don't think so. But if you're a classicist, maybe you'd enjoy it as a study rather than actual dating advice. Film next? Yeah, okay. So the next film we have is Holiday. This is like a contemporary romance. Like a recent one. I think last few years it came out. This doesn't have good reviews. Like, people don't really like this. I wouldn't say it's an absolute classic. I did actually really like the film though. It was definitely good to melt with. So that's where it's gonna go. It's gonna say good to melt with. I enjoyed it. It was good. So book next. Okay. The Highland Fling by Megan Quinn is... Don't read it if you're under 18, but if you're over 18, go for it. I didn't really read romance books because they just weren't really my thing. But then I felt like maybe I should broaden my horizons when it comes to what I read. So that's the first romance book I think I read, and I read it this year. And then since then I've read like 3 other romances. So I do think it's an interesting genre. And I'm grateful that I opened with this one because it is quite funny. The protagonist, the female protagonist, is absolutely unbearable. Like, the worst. I really despised her. But like towards the like last third of the book, it got really good. And got more complex. So I don't know, maybe you would enjoy The Highland Fling. It's about 2 girls who move to the Scottish Highlands to pursue a change in the pace of their life. So, The Highland Fling by Megan Quinn. Did it bang? Well, it banged. But like, did it bang? I don't know. Did it bang? Or was it good to melt with? It's like in between good to melt with and banger. Clearly my categories are not the best. It was definitely good to melt with. Did it bang? I'm gonna put it in good to melt with. But it's like in between. It's like good to melt with plus, you know? Okay, movie. Let's do The Holiday. Okay, The Holiday. Absolute classic. I mean, it's got Jude Law in it, so... yeah. I hope it's Jude Law that I mean. Anyway. It's got Jude Law in it. Absolute classic. Got Jack Black in it. Like, what a weird cast. Kate Winslet, Cameron Diaz, Jack Black and Jude Law. In a rom-com. Weird cast. But, like, great. Good fun. Love it. Absolute classic. Book. Okay, another one that's set in Scotland. I've been reading a lot of literature based in Scotland or from Scottish authors lately. This is called The Guesthouse at Lobster Bay. It's about a woman who experiences a trauma and then buys a guest house, does it up, and maybe not, finds love along the way. It's a good book. It's definitely good to melt with. But I bought another book and it literally looks exactly the same as this in the front cover, and like the synopses are the exact same. Like 2 women who experience traumas and then go away. One to the Highlands, one to the countryside of Cambridgeshire, and find love And it's like, oh, it was exactly the same, and the book covers look exactly the same. But The Guesthouse at Lobster Bay was written a lot better, in my opinion. So I'm going to say... Okay, right. So we're going to put the Highland Fling in banger. And we're going to say The Guesthouse at Lobster Bay was good to melt with. Because they were not the same level. So... But banger is like a bit high for the Highland Fling. Just... But still. Okay, film. I think the rest I have are just films. Okay, so let's do Wild Child. Wild Child is not really a rom-com. It's... I don't know, it kind of is, actually. It's more like a comedy film, which has a romance in it. But I put it in there because it reminds me of my childhood. So, yeah. So Wild Child, I think is really good. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the memory of it. Maybe, like, I enjoy the memory of it more than, like, how good the actual film was. I keep putting things in absolute classic, so I think I'm going to put this in banger. Because it did. It banged. Okay, last two. So the last two, we've got Bridget Jones's Diary, which is an absolute classic. You cannot tell me otherwise. It's, I mean, some of the stuff in it is really dubious nowadays. Like, well, a lot of the stuff about weight and this pursuit of thinness and the way that men speak to women. But it is a classic. I do enjoy it. I do melt to it. So, yeah. Bridget Jones's Diary. This is the first one, by the way, not like the second or the final one. But the first one is absolute classic. Then we have Call Me By Your Name, which is a book, but I'm ranking the film version. Just because I haven't read the book, but I have seen the film. Which is kind of a contradiction, because for Eat, Pray, Love I did the film and the book. Anyway, I'm doing the film. I don't know how I feel about this film, because I liked a lot of elements of the film, like the cinematography, the pacing, I really enjoyed. Yeah, I enjoyed aspects of the film, but I couldn't get into the romance because... Isn't Elliot a minor? Like, isn't he? Like, at least that's the view I had in my head. Like, I remember reading somewhere that he was, like, 17, and then the love interest is, like, a lot older, 20s, 30s, something like that. So I can't get on board with that. I can't. So, but I liked aspects of the film, so I'm not going to say it's a disaster, even though, like, the storyline of a love relationship between a minor and someone who's not a minor, a major, an adult, yeah, that's a disaster. So I'm going to put it in, I don't think so. Because it's, I don't know, that's kind of weird. Right? I don't know. Tell me your thoughts and feelings about Call Me By Your Name. And also tell me if I'm wrong, and, like, I read that wrong, and they're both adults. Because if they're both adults, then I put it in good to melt with. But if they're not, I don't think so. So that's that. There are lots of other romances in the world, in terms of rom-coms and in novels, that I could rank, but I think we'll call it a day here. Thank you for coming and watching this video. Yeah, hope you have a good day. Hope you can melt to some rom-coms if you're heartbroken and you want to die. So, yeah. Peace.